Right. I got something. Hang on. Hang on, take that. There goes a sight from my soul. So a little while ago, I did a video with my friend Hans. I got some feedback. Here's the thing that keeps hanging me up when I hear the two of you talking. You are both entrepreneurs cut from a very similar cloth. Recognize that there are aspects of this topic that may excite you, meaning me, but terrify others. I'm all for owning your own career and building muscles for creativity and solution. Customer focus is a good idea for anyone in any job, but not everyone is going to have all of the pieces by themselves. Very good point. An ecosystem means that there is symbiosis. Maybe talk about how you will depend on others for X and they depend on you for Y. The impression I have coming away from these two videos is that everyone is going to have to be Superman or Superwoman. Thanks so much for that feedback. It really made me think about this. What I want to talk about today is really this idea of symbiosis and how do we work together in a kind of a free-forming symbiosis versus a forced form of symbiosis. So to do that, let's first define what symbiosis is. Symbiosis is a relationship between two kinds of living things that live together and depend on each other. The living together is more or less intimate association or close union of two dissimilar, and that's really important, organisms, right? Where there's a mutually beneficial association between the different types of organisms. So symbiosis is a really important thing. And I believe that we actually do this all day, every day, if not all day. We refer to it as collaboration. It's more about the idea of how it happens, not necessarily that it happens. So what I want to talk about is the difference of a culture of free symbiosis versus a culture of forced symbiosis and what happens. So here's how I define forced symbiosis: is my company define my role as well as who I work with and who I work for. I function within my responsibility and my progression is determined by my manager and reciprocated with appropriate compensation. Free symbiosis is I work on a project when and how I want with the objective of solving a problem. I work with other people to do this because collectively we've determined that it's the best way to solve the client's problem. I have autonomy to gauge my compensation based on the type of work I do and the perceived value of my specific skill set. So Adam Smith, let's talk about Adam for a little while. He gave us the concept of the invisible hand. The Economic Times defined it this way: it's the unstoppable market force that helps the demand and supply of goods in a free market to reach equilibrium automatically. This concept is not practiced in business, right? The evidence that it's not practiced in business is middle managers. Middle managers are designed to help us not do that, right? It's the exact opposite. So my question ultimately is, why are we so worried about the business space and that all falling apart when in the consumer space we have no problems in letting it happen, right? That invisible hand concept happen. Why can't we do that in the business world? And to me, the simple answer is risk management. We're not willing to risk profit margins. We're not willing to risk our brand. A middle manager is going to work really hard throughout the beginning of their career to define who they are and what they do, right? They build up these muscles of work, right? These work muscles. It may be if you're a developer, you learn how to develop. If you're ultimately what happens is you get pretty good at doing that. And then senior people go, my goodness, that person is really good at that. Let's give them more responsibility. But that responsibility doesn't come in the form of more work that they're really good at. It comes in the form of managing people. And when you manage more people, you spend time developing a new muscle, or the people management muscle. And pretty soon, once you've developed that muscle so much that when you look in the work mirror, that muscle is so big that the other muscles have started to atrophy. And now we have another complicated problem where all the people that middle manager is looking after are now saying, what does this manager actually do? And what's created now is this concrete layer of middle management, because really their value comes in the flow of managing the flow of information. So Dan Pink really captured this concept really well, and is I think the topic is motivation, how people are motivated. What he talked about was this concept of management and how that it was invented.
In the 20th century, we came up with this idea of management. Management did not emanate from nature. Okay, management it's not a tree, it's a television set. Okay, somebody invented it. And it doesn't mean it's going to work forever.
We invented management. It's there because we wanted it to be there. And like most things that are invented, it'll eventually lose its need. And I believe that the technology that is being built at the moment is replacing the need for middle managers. Let me be very, very clear. I'm not saying we don't want the people who are middle managers. What I'm suggesting is that we put the people who are middle managers back into doing roles. So there is risk that's associated with this concept. I totally get that. But if we spread the risk, if we put the financial incentives or whatever it may be in the hands of the person doing the work, then maybe they're more willing to do things that are outside of their comfort zone, or more willing to work harder to do something where before they would have said, this isn't inside of my roles and responsibilities, therefore I'm not going to do it, someone else can handle it. When we're incentivized and motivated by what motivates us and incentivizes us, then we're more willing to do it. And that's really the whole impetus to this. Share the risk. Give people that opportunity to be rewarded based on what they want, not necessarily what someone else determines they need. And that's it. One other thing that I want to mention real quick is an article that I just read recently, actually, from the Harvard Business Review that talks about how this naturally occurring symbiosis that we've been talking about is actually able to foster serendipity. All right. When we have that serendipitous experience in the work world, that's when we get really cool things happening. So take a risk by sharing the risk. Look at what other people can bring to the table if they're in that symbiosis state of working, where they're not being forced to do a certain thing just because someone else decided that, and let them be a little bit more free. Thank you for listening. I know that was a lot, but I think it's really important that we understand that we have the ability to do these amazing things if we just give ourselves a little bit more freedom, a little bit more room to wiggle.
There goes a sight, there goes a sight. Now there goes a sight from my soul.